Aditya Hridayam, verse 7. Now this, I'll just share the screen. Sarvadevatmako hyesha tejasvi rashmi bhavanaha yesha deva suraganan lokan pati gabhastibhihi. This is the verse. Sarvadevatmako hyesha tejasvi rashmi bhavanaha yesha deva suraganan lokan pati gabhastibhihi. And how does it break up? Om Sarvadevatmakaha Sarvadevatmakaya Namaha. Om Tejasvine Namaha. Om Rashmi Bhavanaya Namaha. Om Deva Suragana Lokapalaya Namaha. Om. So there are there are 5, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 namas that come out of this particular verse. So Sarvadevatmako Hyesha. Hyesha is Sarvadevatmako Esha. Esha is this who we are talking about. Esha is in the Upanishads, Brahman or this consciousness or this principle is usually referred to as Esha, which means this one in the masculine tense, in the masculine form. When you say so in Sanskrit, it's Esha, Esha, Etat, masculine, feminine, neuter. So if you want to point out at something which is the gender of that object is masculine, Esha, feminine, Esha, neuter gender is Etat. In the Upanishads and these texts, you will find that this consciousness is referred to as either Esha or Etat. It's usually referred to as, like Purusha Suktam talks about Purusha. Eshaha Purushaha. So this particular concept of this consciousness is Purusha. So the Purusha word does not necessarily mean that it is male, nor is it masculine. It is just a way of representing, because at those times it was the association to divinity as this all-inclusive father, the all-inclusive individual who is this powerful, because power is also associated with Bhagavan. One of the Shad Bhagas, one of the 6 Bhagas that Ishvara or Bhagavan has, there is also power. So he is omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. So the potential that he carries is infinite. So he is seen as this, and whenever you want to feel protected, the protection idea is always the male of the society, right? The male protects. So somehow that developed at that time. And so the representation of this consciousness or this Brahman is always referred to as either male, or then if the Rishi was a little sensitive, didn't want to be gender biased, he would say Etat. Okay. So in the Kalatala, it becomes very, very, it becomes a debatable subject. How can you say it is anything when you say it? Huh? Exactly. It becomes very sensitive when we are referring to these principles as male, female, and whatever. What you're trying to do is you're trying to point. In fact, in many discourses about Ramana Maharshi, I've heard him being referred to as Adu. Adu Sollum. Adu Sollithu. Appadina Ramanara vandu refer panni pesua. Because their experience of Ramana was not as a male or a female, as a substance. ஏதோ அங்க இருக்கு அப்படின்னு தான் அவளுக்கு ஒரு ஃபீலிங் இருக்கும். The feeling that people around him will carry is that there is a presence there. How do you say this presence is masculine or feminine? So that the representation is always like so. Here, Sarvadevatmako Hyesha, amongst all gods, he is the one who is the Sarva Deva Atma, the Atma of all Devas, which means he is the quintessential, the essence of all celestial beings. The other thing is, if you also see Surya Bhagavan, Surya Narayanan is also masculine. He is also shown as masculine
Surya
principle.
is male god.
Mm. Surya is shown as a male god. But then there are then Devi, Lakshmi, Saraswati, Parvati, Durga, Chandi, they're all shown as feminine aspects. It's also in terms of their functioning and principle, they are shown differently. And as we said, there are Shan Mathas that we have, right? Kaumara, Ganapatya, Saura, Shakta, Shaiva, Vaishnava. So there are 6 Mathas, and each one holds that particular deity as the highest. So Surya Narayanan is represented as the aspect of Narayana, Vishnu. So Surya Shiva kadayada அப்படிங்கிறதெல்லாம் இல்லை. It doesn't mean that.
Because the Sanchalanam is being done by Vishnu, right? So it's
Ah.
appropriate that.
Correct.
So yes.
So the greater functioning of Surya is to sustain life form, although he is also the creator of this life form, and at the end of it, he is also the one who destroys it. But predominantly in our experience, he is the one that sustains life. So hence he is associated with Vishnu, Narayana, and all that. So the masculine form is important in a way for associate. When it comes to bhakti, the form matters. When it's a matter of bhakti. See, when you want a feeling of Amma oda madila poi paduthukanum, if you feel like you want to go and lie down on the lap of your mother, it's very hard to imagine a masculine there. You would only think of a lady. You think of a feminine form. Unless your father has been such, right? Your father has given you the lap to lie down on, then it's an individual experience. But I'm saying by and large, that is the experience one would want to go. If you want nourishment, if you want food, if you want love and food and care, you would want to go to the mother. So human experiences, you exalt it to the higher experiences, or you exalt it to the celestial forms, and you try to approach it in that form, the same bhakti. The same bhakti with which you go to your parents, or the masculine and the feminine in the human experience, the same you extrapolate it there and you associate it to that. But doesn't mean that Krishna, Tayum Anavar, there is a saint called Tayum Anavar. He became the mother, right? Tayum Anavar. So his saint name is called Tayum Anavar. So actually the physical form doesn't really matter. But bhakti, it matters, because from a devotion, when you're associating, you would like to associate to a certain form and gender, depending on what your emotion is rising. Devotion is what? The emotion that you have within you, which is a human emotion, you want to transcend it and convert it into an emotion that you associate with God. Emotions are usually associated with worldly people, objects, events. The emotions that rises within, either associated with worldly objects, people, or events. In devotion, what you're doing is using the same emotion, and you're associating now not with the objects, people, and events. You're associating with this higher ideal. So, and you're creating that link. The same emotion, but you're creating that link. And so that becomes devotion. Okay. So here, Sarva Devatmako Hesha Tejasvi Rashmi Bhavanaha. He is the splendorous one. Esha Devasura Ganan Lokan Patigavastibihi. He is the protector of all. So here, we will go for each this thing. So what it also says is here, the upasana is not on the sun alone as a cosmic being, but also it indicates how Surya is. See, this is the Vedanta. Surya is that one, that primordial one. That is how it is shown, because he's all encompassing, all inclusive, and everything is happening within him. That is how you perceive this. Sarva Devatmakaya Namaha. He is the cause of all the celestial activities in a way. Right? So it means he is the essence of all of it. So in Vedanta, you would have heard of the Karana, Upadana Karana and Nimitta Karana. So, and then the Nimitta Karana is the material with which you use, and Upadana is the one who's doing it, and the product comes out. But in case of consciousness, in case of Brahman, it is both the Upadana and the Nimitta, which means it doesn't require a material cause besides itself to generate or create this material universe. And who creates it itself is creating. So essentially, the whole manifestation is coming out of this. In the same way, like your dream, who do you need to create your dream? It is you. Who creates the dream? You. What are you using to create the dream? You are using yourself. The objects in the dream are your own, which means it's coming from you. You don't require to, if you see a human being in the dream, if you see your friend in the dream, you didn't bring material from outside to create this friend. You didn't bring material from outside to create a tree or a house or whatever you see in the dream. It's all from within you. In the same way, in fact, there is another beautiful example Mundaka Upanishad gives of the spider. How the spider from its own self lets out the web. It creates the web from its own spit and then consumes, so it stays, it resides in that, and then it again devours it, consumes it back. Now this is the example to show that, in fact, Ashtavakra, when he goes to the Janaka's court to defeat this way, the Pandit called Kahor, his father was a very, we'll talk about the story some other time. It's a very beautiful story, Ashtavakra story. He's a boy, a small boy, who has 8 deformations in his body. Deformations, Ashtavakra. 8 விதமான வக்கரங்கள் உடம்புல இருக்கு. ஏன்னா சின்ன வயசுல when he was in the mother's womb and the father was teaching the mother, at one point the son from the womb corrected the father's grammar. From inside the womb, he corrected the father's grammar, saying, Appa, no, you're saying this is not right. You have done a grammatical mistake. The father gets angry and he curses the child, the unborn child. He's saying, you found Vakram in my language, may you have Ashtavakra. So he had 8 deformations in the body. He was born and he was a Brahmagyani. From a very young age, he was a Brahmagyani. He gave Brahmagyanam to Janaka. So Brahma Vidya to Janaka Maharishi. And so the story goes that his father was detained in the prison or detained in Janaka's court because he lost a Vidvat. In the Vidvat Sabha, he lost against a particular Pandit. And then several years later, the boy Ashtavakra finds out about this, and then he goes to Janaka's court, and he calls the same Pandit for a debate and says, now I want to I want to have a debate with you so that I can release my father. So in that, the Pandit asks him, how does you talk about Ishvara? How does Ishvara create, sustain and destroy? Then he gives this beautiful example of a spider. This is one example. The other example is of a dream. How in the Swapna Avastha we go through this process. So Sarva Devatmako Hesha. So the Esha, the sun that we see, is the essence of all beings. Now Deva here doesn't just mean celestial beings, it means all beings. Sarvatmaka. There is a reference here made to in Chandogya Upanishad. Ya esho antaraditye hiranmaya purusho drishyate. So this Aditya that you see outside there is the Hiranmaya Purusha. The Esha, the Antaraditya that you see, the Aditya that you see within you, Esha Antaraditya that you perceive is the Hiranmaya Purusha. Hiranmayena patrena satyasyapi hitam mukham. Ishavasya Upanishad la patam. So the Purusha that you, or the Aditya that you are experiencing within, is seen as the Purusha on the outside, as the Hiranmaya, the golden Purusha on the outside. Chandogya Upanishad makes this mention here. So again, it's going back to the same idea of Isha, the Upanishadic statement to say that Esha means the Surya that you're seeing. And see, the other interesting thing is, in grammar, Sanskritam, if you want to say that masculine, feminine, neuter, it will be Saha, Saha, Ta, Te. Saha, Sa, Te. That's how we would say, right? Saha is masculine, Sa is feminine, Tat is neuter. Saha, Sa, Tat. For that. Esha, Esha, Etat. Saha, Sa, Tat. That's how you would refer. Now, the whole, this thing goes at Esha, so which means it's closer to you. It's closest. You're not pointing out to some Surya there. You're talking about this Surya here. A very, this thing, interesting use of the word that we need to take note of. Because Agastya Maharishi could have said, Sarva Devatmakaha Saha, but he chose to say Esha. This Surya, this Surya, this Surya. Two reasons. One is this Surya that I am referring to is the Sarva Devatmaka, and also to say the Surya that is here, the Aditya that is here, that is what I am talking about. Because this essence that is within me is the essence of this whole universe, this whole cosmic consciousness. It's the same Atma. Tejasvi, Tejasvine Namaha, one who illumines all beings, the source of intelligence in all beings. Rashmi Bhavanaya Namaha, one who brings all beings into existence by his rays of intelligence, one who is the source of their existence and intelligence. Rashmi also means devotee. Rashmi Bhavana. Rashmi Bhavana is also one who induces the Bhavana of Rashmi. Rashmi is rays. One meaning is rays. The other meaning is also devotee, bhakta. So he invokes devotion within you. When you go to somebody who's extremely, much more powerful than you, one of the things is fear. The other thing is also, I want to be subservient or to be a dasa, or I want to submit or surrender myself. Ah, super. Bhaya Bhakti. Very nice. So, Bhaya வேண்டா நமக்கு பக்தி இருந்தா போறோம். அது சின்ன குழந்தைகளை பயம்படுத்துறதுக்காக பயபக்தின்னு சொல்றான்னு நினைக்கிறேன் நான். Fear works when you're a small child. As
fear is only to show the society, like, or it's just to show as if you are scared.
Correct. Fear is an interesting starting point. You get into that, but then that's not the way it should sustain. It should grow into understanding, and it should grow into jnanam and bhakti. So bhaya bhakti should become jnanam and bhakti.
Probably fear of doing papam and getting into that's vicious cycle.
Correct. So somehow, so fear is a good starting point. So good, it's a good starting point. Fear, bhayam is a good starting point, but that's after a certain point, we should convert it into jnanam. See, once understanding comes, bhayam is not there anymore. Bhayam is always generally about the unknown. Correct? When it transforms into jnanam, then there is no bhayam, because you have a sense of understanding and you start acting responsibly. And then bhakti also is what you inculcate. So Rashmi Bhavanaha is to inculcate, he inculcates bhakti within us. Rashmi Bhavanaha. Tejasvine Namaha, illuminator of everything. Tejasvine Namaha, Rashmi Bhavanaya Namaha. Devasura Ganan Devasura Ganan Lokan Pati. So he is the one who is in all the lokas, Devaloka, Asura Loka, where all of this, he is the one who protects or sustains all these lokas. Okay. Now the important question is, we have bhuhu, bhuvaha, swaha, maha, janaha, tapaha, satyam, and then kira, atala, vitala, patala, varaikum pordadu. There are 14 lokas in the Vedic literature. Now these 14 lokas don't exist in a physical dimension somewhere. These 14 lokas, of course, there are many lokas, because as they go expand, find more and more universes and all of that, you will find more intelligent beings and intelligent forms in several other places. But essentially, these lokas refer to dimensions within the physical realm that we are. Physical is bhuhu. Bhuhu doesn't necessarily mean the earth. Bhuloka doesn't necessarily mean the earth. Bhuloka means the physical realm. Bhuvarloka is the celestial realm. Suvarloka is the Swarga realm. These are different realms existing in a parallel dimension, which we are not able to access through the same physical form. We cannot access these using the same physical form and the same physical indriyas or faculties that we have. So lokas are right here, right now. They exist. Like if you're saying Pitruloka, if our ancestors have passed on and gone, they have not gone to some other planet and they're sitting and enjoying there. No, they are in the same, they may be in the same physical space, but they are operating at a different dimension. They're operating in a different frequency. So which is why if you invoke them, you're able to feel their presence. If they're sitting in some loka somewhere, I mean, even physically speaking, it will be difficult for them to travel and come. So actually, they are not sitting in some random physical loka 10 million light years from here. They are right here in this, but in a different dimension. They're vibrating, or their frequency of operation is at a different level. Which is why we cannot access them. If they have the ability, they can access us. We can feel their presence at times, and all of this happens, right? So when he's saying Deva Asura Ganan Lokan Pati Gavasivi, he says all the Deva, Asura, and all the lokas that are there, he is the protector of all of those lokas, which means all of that is existing here. Surya Bhagavan sustains all of that. Gabastibhihi, sustainer of all through his rays, functioning knowledge. So Gabastibhihi is an interesting way of it's presented as though he is the one who evaporates the water that is there, converts it into clouds, and through clouds gives us as fresh rain. So, which means he's also if you look at it, it is an interesting way of looking at how a guru functions also. A guru also functions like this. He will he will take out ajnanam, lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, the fear, bhayam, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, evaporates all of that, converts it into a beautiful rain of knowledge, of jnanam and understanding. Right? Sudha Sarabhi Varshini. There is a nama in Lalita Sahasranama. Sudha Sarabhi Varshini. She will rain upon you as nectar, Sudha Sara. Nectar. It's nectar of understanding, nectar of knowledge, nectar of joy. So in the same way, he functions like that. Gabastibihi. There's some other description that I've tried to capture here.
Like he's a source of the food. Yeah.
Ama. Correct. Correct. So what you consume, he is essentially this. In fact, there is a whole there is a Vedic chant called Mantra Pushpam, which refers to this whole Yopam Vishwam Veda Vishwaman Prajavan Pashuman Bhavati Ya Evam Veda Yopam Ayatanam Veda Ayatanavan Bhavati. So one who understands this water that is raining down is the essence of all life. Ya Evam Veda, the one who knows this, knows it all, understands everything. I would initially, very beautiful Vedic chant. So this, I'll just leave it like this text and all, we can read it later. Okay, but the idea is that the lokas, essentially what we're trying to say is, remember the lokas are experiences within, in the same way we are living, and we experience different existences or different frequencies of existence within the same space, if you will. Right? In fact, Hanuman, for example, Chiranjeevi, he says that whenever there is Ramayana or Rama Nama that is chanted, I will be present amidst that. I will appear there. Right? So where is Hanuman roaming as Chiranjeevi? He's right here. When you're able to invoke and he's able to be present, you're actually, it's a form of energy that is vibrating at a different frequency. That's all it is. Suppose if you in America chant Hanuman Chalisa and I in Dubai and somebody in Singapore is chanting Hanuman Chalisa, how will Hanuman come into three places at the same time? குழந்தைகள் இப்படி கேள்வி கேட்டா கஷ்டம் தான் அதுக்கு பதில் சொல்றது. மூணு இடத்துலயும் எப்படி ஹனுமார் ஒரேடியா வந்துட முடியுமா அப்படின்னு. So the point is that existing as this frequency of operation and you're tuning into that frequency, and that is how these when it means these lokas are essentially that it means that it's a different dimension existing in the same space that we look at. See, actually Adi Shankara mentions loka as lokyate iti lokaha. That which can be experienced is loka. Simple as that. If you can experience with the body, without the body, whether you're embodied or disembodied, in any of these cases, if you can experience something, lokyate iti lokaha, that which can be seen. Seen means perceived or experienced. That is a loka. In fact, while we are here also, we experience naraka loka. Naraka vedana அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம்ல. A lot of times when we go through a lot of suffering, naraka vedana அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம். That is naraka loka. That is hell. And when you experience joy, Swargaloka. So
Chennai Naragaloka தான் இப்போ வெயில்.
என்னை சூடு அங்க ஆதித்யனோட பிளெஸிங் ஃபுல்லா இருக்கு. Okay, very nice. So verse 7 was Om Sarvadevatmakaya Namaha, Om Tejasvine Namaha, Om Rashmi Bhavanaya Namaha, Om Devasura Gana Lokapalaya Namaha. These are the Sarvadevatmako Hirsha Tejasvi Rashmi Bhavanaha Esha Devasura Gunan Lokan Pati Gavastibihi. Verse 7. Verse 8. Esha Brahma cha Vishnuscha Shivaskanda Prajapatihi Mahendro Danadah Kalo Yamas Somo Hyapampatihi. Now he's saying he is the one, Esha is the one who is worshipped as Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Skanda, Prajapati, Mahendra, Kala, Yama, Somaha, all of this. He is worshipped as all of these forms. What does it mean to say it is him who's appearing all these forms? Ekam Sat Vipra Baudha Vadanti. Sat is only one. Ekam Sat. The Vipra, the wise ones say that Sat is Eka. They appear as many. Bahuda. They appear as many. So, Esha Brahma cha Vishnuscha Shivaskanda Prajapatihi Mahendro Dhanada Kalo Yamas Somo Hyapampatihi. So this is where you can, which means whenever you're seeing any of these forms, you are essentially doing Surya Upasana. Is one way of looking at it, because Surya's light is enabling you to see all of this, to experience all of this. He is the cause that you can experience, you can see, you can perceive all of this. You can understand even the light, Dhihi, the Gayatri mantra, is essentially a mantra to Savitur Devata, which is essentially to enlighten your Dhihi, Buddhi. Sandhya Vandanam is also done looking at the Surya, because that light, you want that light to enlighten the light of the knowledge, light of knowledge. Jyotisham api Jyotihi, the light of all lights that is within you. That is what you want to brighten up. Antarjyoti Bahirjyoti Pratyak Jyoti Paratpara Atma Jyoti Swayam Jyoti Jyotir Jyotir Namo Namaha. So that Jyoti, with that Jyoti, you are able to perceive all of this as Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Skanda, Prajapati, Mahendra, Kala, Yama, Somaha, all of them. Then we'll go into each one. One is Eshaha Brahmaha Brahmane Namaha, function of creation. Vishnave Namaha, function of sustenance. Shivaya Namaha, function of dissolution. Narayana Suktam made a reference here. Narayana Suktam has this line at the last. Sa Brahma sa Shiva Sendra sa Harish Sendra Sokshara Paramaswarat. There is a line that comes in Narayana Suktam at the end. So he is the Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, Shiva, Hari, Indra, Akshara, Swarat. Skandaha, he is one who is responsible for activity within us. In fact, Skanda, Murugan, Skanda is also known as Skanda because he is the one who In fact, if you see, again, the representation of these iconographies are interesting. Ganapati is shown as sitting in one place as a Ganesha because he's cosmic ideation. Ideas, you can sit in one place and you can still have ideas. You can create ideation. Skanda is somebody who sits on the peacock and goes around because he is the instigator of action, activity, movement. That is why you see Devi, there is a lot of association of Devi with Skanda and Shiva with Ganapati. Because Shiva is the static principle, Shakti is the dynamic principle. In the same way, Ganapati is fairly static and Skanda is that which moves. Skandati, iti Skandaha, that which emits, activates the senses in us by being that light. Skandaya Namaha. Prajapataye Namaha. Prajapati means the one who is the cause of all beings. one of the Prajapatis we know is Daksha Prajapati in the story of Shiva Purana. Daksha Prajapati, who was the father of Sati, and whose head got chopped because of because Sati fell into the Homa Kunda, right? So, and then he was given by Veerabhadra. His head was chopped by Shiva's aspect, Veerabhadra. Then Shiva came and blessed him with the head of a goat, and then he chanted Chamakam. This is the mythology. This is the story that is there in the Shiva Purana. So that is one Prajapati we know. Prajapati is actually Brahma's Manasaputra. Brahma had a few Manasaputras, and that one of the Manasaputras is Prajapati. And one of the main functions, Brahma's function is of creation, right? Prajapati is the one who carries it out. So Prajapati creates all beings, all forms. So there are many Prajapatis that have been there at different times. So Surya is also Prajapati. Prajapataye Namaha. He is also the one who is, he is Brahma himself. So he is also Prajapati. Esha Brahma cha Vishnuscha Shivaskanda Prajapati. So he is Brahma, and which means he is also the Brahma's Manasaputra, which is Prajapati, which means it is Surya Bhagavan, or that consciousness which shines through all of this. It's that consciousness that shines through everything. And again, whenever we refer to Surya Bhagavan, we are talking about consciousness. We are talking about Brahman. We are talking about Atma. We are talking about Satchidananda Swarupa, that principle. Mahendra Yanamaha. Mahendra is Indra. So Surya is also chief of all gods. Dhanada Yanamaha. Dhanada Yanamaha is Kubera. He is also the god of wealth. Wealth and prosperity. As the god of wealth and prosperity, which means prosperity here or wealth doesn't necessarily mean money. Right now, what has happened is our focus in the last, I think, couple of centuries or so, or maybe a century or so, the focus of wealth has become economic only. It has only become economic, which means if I have a heavy bank balance, or I have a lot of cash or money with me or property, that is an indication of wealth. Knowledge is also wealth. Sadguna is also wealth. A lot of times, if you see in if there's a king, for instance, and there is somebody who is very knowledgeable, even the king bows down to him. Knowledgeable means Sat, Vidya. So even the king bows down to him. So what does it mean that and then there are people with Sadguna, which means virtues, kindness, selfless attitude, helping others, reaching out to people, showing karuna, compassion. All of these are Sadgunas. So this is also wealth. So the problem is that now it has been reduced. Wealth has been reduced significantly to economic indication. Economic indicator is the indication that you're wealthy, but this is not that what is meant here. It is Dhanadaha is he's Dhanadaya Namaha. He's the one who also instigates all these kinds of wealth within you: spiritual wealth, mental wealth, physical wealth, wealth of energy. Right? So he is Dhanadaya Namaha, Kalaya Namaha, Yamaya Namaha, Somaya Namaha. He is Kala. Kala means time. Kala means time. Time also means death. That is why Kala, the word Kala is used for both time and death, which means that which moves has to die. Anything that moves in time has to die. asti, jayate, vardhate, viparinamate, vinash, then there is one term for decay. Asti,
Jarava.
asti is to be, jayate is to be born, vardhate is to grow, viparinamate is to change, and decay is a term for decay, and then vinashyati or pranashyati. Vinashyati is the last one, sixth one. These are 6 stages of any object that is there, decay and death. This is the 6 stages any object goes through that is in time, in space and time. Anything that's in space and time has to go through this. So kala has, if there is asti, which means that's coming into being, coming into existence, is in time, then death is invariably going to be there. Death is invariably going to be there. Whether it's 1 year, 10 years, 100 years, a million years, doesn't matter. There is decay and death. So kala Namaha is also this the sense of, he is also the one who is the sense of time. He is also kala. Thank you, Ganga. He is also kala. He is also the one. Chalunga?
Decay on the moment you are born, it starts decaying. Yeah, the process.
Ama. So some amount of decay is happening while there is also some amount of growth that is happening. So there is constant. The only thing between growth and decay, the proportion of decay is lesser after you come into existence, while the proportion of growth is much greater. But as you grow older in time, the proportion changes. There is less of growth and more of decay. But yes, the moment you kick in, everything kicks in instantaneously, right? So that's Kalaya Namaha. Yamaya Namaha. He is also the regulator. Yama, we may think Yama is the god of death. Actually, Yama is the god, he's a regulator. He's a regulator, which means it is something through. Yama is actually also, if you think, Yama is also known as Dharmaraja.
Pranayama.
Pranayama, correct. Pranayama is to regulate the breath, not to control. Understand? We don't control the breath. We regulate the breath so that the energies don't go to the Ida or the Pingala. It runs in the Sushumna. That is what, you're not trying to control the breath, and what do you do after that? You're going to die. You are only regulating the breath. Chandra Mama has written here, Surya is said to be Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and all gods. Similarly, Vishnu, Shiva, Devi is stated to be representing all gods in their various suits. Stutis may be it to stress the importance what is takeoff for us. So this is Mama, I told, right, the Shan Mathas. So Mama is asking the chat, there are different stutis. So here Surya is said to be Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Then in Shiva stuti, Shiva is said to be Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. In Vishnu stuti, Vishnu is said to be Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and so on and so forth. The idea is that is why this whole what we call as this Hindu culture, or this culture of study that we have, or this particular the scriptures that we have in this culture, they appear confusing, because you'll say, oh, Ganapati is the greatest. Then you go to Vishnu, oh, Vishnu is the greatest. Greatest can only be one. How can you say everybody is greatest? But the point is, what we are trying to say is that it's not about Vishnu that is the greatest, or Shiva that is the greatest, or Surya that is the greatest. No. We are saying through this form, we are pointing to that which is the greatest. And what is that? That is Brahman. That is consciousness. That is Paramatma. And he has no shape, no form. But he exists. It exists. So in Shiva Stuti, you're using Shiva as the form to go and look at that. Again, Ishavasya Upanishad also, we had the same. Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasyapi Mukham, Satyasyapi Hitam Mukham. So he's saying, remove, O Surya, remove this golden disc that I'm seeing so that I can see the truth behind you. The truth behind you is what I am trying to look for. If you stop with the form, then it is great, but if you understand from that form, everything else comes out, which is what they're trying to say. If you go hit Vishnu Bhagavan and you say Vishnu is the greatest and everything else comes from Vishnu, go with that. That's it. Doesn't matter. Because through that form, you'll be able to see that which is a formless. The problem comes when you say Vishnu is the only the greatest and not Shiva. Krishna is only the greatest and not Ganapati. If you start seeing them as forms of human beings and you start comparing, problem starts there. We are not going there. We are always, as a spiritual seeker, as a true spiritual seeker, one must always look at the quintessence, the essence behind what is being said, the essence behind the form, what is being pointed at. As I said, you can, whenever you point at something, you can only point at an object. How do you point at, for example, there is a gold necklace, a gold bangle, and a gold earring, and I'm telling this is gold. How do you point at gold? You can only point at the object, which is a necklace or a earring or a bangle. How can you point at gold? When I'm saying I'm pointing at clay, there is a clay pot, there is a clay tumbler, there is a clay plate. I'm saying this is clay, this is clay, this is clay, this is clay. How can I point at clay? I can only point at the object which is made of clay. That's the same problem that we face. In Adhyatma study also, we are constantly trying to point at something that cannot be pointed at. You can only point at things and objects, and through that you see the truth, the reality which is behind it. And which is why you point at everything, every possible thing you point, and you say it's all pointing to the same thing. Everything is, so like for example, saying if I want to show clay, I will show 100 things that are made of clay and say this is clay, this is clay, this is clay, this is clay. இப்போது புரியுறதா? Clay da, இது எல்லாமே clay da. So இப்போவும் புரியல, I'll get 20 more things, 120. Now this is also clay, 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 and then I show. So that is what is happening.
இது வந்து இது டம்ளர், இது பானை, இது தட்டு அப்படின்னு உட்காந்துனா அதுலயே உட்காந்துருக்கணும்.
அதுலயே மாட்டின்னு இருப்போம்.
பிரம்மா விஷ்ணு சிவன்லயே உட்காந்துருக்கோம்.
Exactly. So we are
forget to see the clay. Correct.
We're trying to see the clay. So saying Esha Brahma cha Vishnu cha Shiva Skanda Prajapati Mahendro Dhanada Kala Yamasomo Yapampati Attana Periyo. He's saying that all of this are only forms. Essentially, behind that is not also the Surya Bhagavan that you're talking about. In this in that particular diagram, you have a Surya Bhagavan, right? It is not, you're not looking at that Surya Bhagavan. You're not looking at this Surya Bhagavan. You're looking at the concept of what is. You're not looking at. So Aditya Hridayam is not saying that this Surya Bhagavan that you saw in that diagram, he is Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. No, you're not saying that. Surya Bhagavan is also a form only. Right? But you're using him as a pointer to say that all of this has come from that, and that actually points to Brahman. Okay, Mama, is that okay?
Okay, Mama. Okay, okay.
Somaya Namaha. So he is also Soma. Soma, the word is a beautiful, this thing is, Soma is essentially a herb that is used or consumed to attain to higher altered state of consciousness. So it is also prayed to, worshipped to. In the Vedic times, Soma was a very important thing because it helps you to raise your consciousness to a higher state. But another way, there is a little word play. Sa Uma becomes Soma. With Uma, with Shakti. So this Brahman with Shakti is Soma. That is actually Ishvara. Brahman with Maya becomes Ishvara. Apampatihi. He is the Apam is essentially water, or the element of water. And as we said, In creation, water takes 70% of the physical creation is water. 70% of physical creation is water. Be it your body or be it earth. 70% is water. So he is the Lord of that. Apam Patihi. So he is Esha Brahma cha Vishnusya Shivaskandav Prajapati Mahendro Dhanada Kalo Yamas Somo Yapampati Brahmane Namaha Vishnave Namaha Om Shivaya Namaha Om Skandaya Namaha Om Prajapataye Namaha Om Mahendraya Namaha Om Dhanadaya Namaha Om Kalaya Namaha Om Yamaya Namaha Om Somaya Namaha Om Apampataye Namaha Om कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि सदाशिवायेति समर्पयामि जगदम्बिकायै इति समर्पयामि सद्गुरुनाथायेति समर्पयामि हरि ओम तत्सद्गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम